Hey everybody, and welcome to the VDoor Locksmith show, where we're unlocking the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. I am super excited about today's show. I know as per normal, I need to wait just a little bit before I give my full intro to make sure that the sound and everything's working. So, Eric Allen, who's usually one of the guys from Dynaqual, is usually always watching. He's already commented, so I'm gonna wait till at least somebody throws out there that they can hear. Oh, never mind. I've already got confirmation from in-house. Yes, things are working. I'm excited. Must contain myself. Okay. I really appreciate everybody watching today. We're gonna have an amazing episode, an amazing interview. We've got an absolutely awesome guest in here with us today. This gentleman is the Chief Marketing Officer of NOV, the world's largest small company. They are a family, and I am glad to be able to have him in here today, as well as he's also one of the board of directors for the SPE, and he is also an advocate for those recovering from human trafficking. So we're going to cover a lot of topics today. I really want people to be engaged in this one, because if you don't, I will just turn my phone off and I will ask all the questions and forget everybody that's watching this and forget the interactive part, because I'm so excited about it. All right. So with that said, I would love to be able to welcome David Reid. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here. All
right, guys. So as we can already see, we've already got 23 people watching. That's great stuff. Hit the little button. It's not going to take too many calories. It just kind of lets us know that, hey, there really is 21 people watching or 23 people watching. It's one of those things that I'm not sure LinkedIn's completely got the algorithm worked out. So if we know people are watching it, it makes us feel a little bit better, keeps the spirits high here in the room. Comment, let us know where you're watching from. We'll be more than happy to give people shout outs. If you're in the NOV family, share this. Let other people within the NOV group know that this is going on. So this is your chief marketing officer. This is the guy that's putting the names and logos on everything in Houston and around the world. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to throw them out there. We'll pass them on and we'll ask them. So please, let's have a lot of interaction today, and maybe at the end of it, we'll give away a free top drive.
For sure.
Does that work?
I mean, it might be this size, but maybe it's a USB, but I would do that.
instead of the keychains, the drill bit keychains.
There you go.
Maybe a top drive that's a pencil sharpener.
Oh, that's really good, because pencils, it's happening a lot.
Yeah. I mean, or a stylus sharpener.
It's a USB. I have one. I'll definitely give one.
We'll even get it autographed.
Yeah,
potentially
by someone. Charlie Top Drive. George Boyjeff. I'll get it signed by George Boyjeff, the inventor, now retired. There you go.
Oh wow. I mean,
I don't know who even knows that, but I do. So it's important to me.
Well, that was one of the questions. Like, I'll start off with this.
Okay.
Is that I know that like we were interacting a lot on LinkedIn prior to you coming on the show.
True.
It's my way of sucking up to guests.
Yeah, I noticed.
But I'll keep doing it. How do you keep track of all the different product lines, all of the different things that are going on? Because I mean, it's hard enough for me to be able to like keep track of all the people that are like, in the MWD directional drilling market and going, okay, there's like 5 or 6 of these MWD companies, or, suppliers and things of this. You guys are continually making acquisitions, continually expanding the portfolio, developing technology in-house, and you've got to be the guy that's spreading the word for all of that. How do you do
How do I do that?
Are you putting the top drive in and
that's it?
The Neuralink?
That's what happens. No, since the beginning. So I'm a bit unique in the company in that probably Clay, our CEO, and myself, not a lot others. The guys who buy probably, because we buy a company a month. Every year we get to the end of the year, there's 12, maybe 14, maybe 10, but on average 12. So I'm just kind of weird. Really, I would call it a gift of ADHD mixed with OCD, probably. Particularly,
it's a good cocktail.
It is, and it's a gift. So, but it's not like or a tool where it's not for everything, but it certainly helps in my role because I obsess on brands and technology and companies, and I'm kind of secretly rig obsessed. But I don't to move out of the original rig group. I have to keep that down. I can't tell the world, like when I go to a shipyard, the leadership who I usually know well will say, hey, we'll come with you. Let's tour some of the rigs. Usually within half an hour, they're gone. They're like, we can't stay this long and can't crawl the same way you do over everything, and like asking like deep questions of everyone about the machines. And so it starts with being close to the product business and loving it. So early on, I worked in pipe handling. Fundamentally, those are my kids. I mean, the top drives, pipe handling, roughnecks, anywhere I go, I want to know.
So is your son going to be happy with you, the statement that you're calling pipe handlers and top drives your kids?
No, he'll be fine.
Okay.
They're older now. I'm saying it more. But true of the industry and early days in my parenting, I was more in the industry than at home, so that's taken work to balance that out. But yeah, it's an obsession I've learned to manage. But there's nothing that from the beginning I wasn't interested in. I got on a rig first time and I'm like, what is that? And they're like, that's not our stuff. And I'm one of my early semi-submersibles. Gosh, I can't even remember the name. It was a pacemaker, Pathfinder, one of those. Let me think about what it was.
Pacemaker.
Can't remember. It wasn't pacemaker. I'm getting it's not the name of it. It was something like that. It wasn't the Pathfinder. It's way before that. So it's a company that's way gone. But I remember it was a mast. It was an old mast, like a 700 series Segco type semi, which was not pleasant to climb at all. But there was a guy, one of our guys in the coveralls was working on the structure, which we were the top drive guys, and I was going there to look at a new installation. And he was working on the derrick, and I said, who's that? And I said, well, that's Neil Hurst, and he in our company. Neil Hurst is a legend in himself, but also rig obsessed. And so I kind of talked to him a little bit and realized, I'm like, why are you working on the derrick? And he's goes, the parts aren't here, and it needs fixing, so I'm working on the derrick. And I was like, wow, that's kind of dangerous stuff. But that was his era. They fixed everything. They were into rigs, but they were obsessed. And I was immediately like, I need to spend time with this guy. Well, he was a pipe handling guy. So we went on a tour of rigs around Norway. And he was like me. He had the same urge. Like when you land on a plane and you see a couple of rigs out there, you're like, I want to go on both of them. Like, how do I get on? And we did that all over Norway. Got on every rig we could find. And he was teaching me on pipe handling. So they also were all guys who, without being latched on, would climb up a derrick and just run around it like they did in New York, the old steel, construction workers. Same, these guys could run around derricks without being tied off and no one was falling. For me, I was like edging myself out because it's terrifying to be at those heights. But he would go up and he'd be down by the time I got to the rig floor and go, okay, go tell me what's wrong with that old Type V racking system. And I'd go up and it'd be great. But he had that same obsession. And all those early guys, they knew you'd say a rig, they'd tell you the history. And I thought, I want to be that guy. I want to know the history. And so as I got into pipe handling, I got into the design of the rig floor. We were changing it. So as a young man, if someone wanted a pipe handling system, which we were kind of drawing into an era where it became normal, we went into deep water, late 90s, and I'd have to go and sit with the designers, and then I had to go to see every single one as it was built. And so I got into that mode of there's nothing I want to have missed in seeing it and knowing it. So you go to a yard, you'd see at least 7 rigs. And I just had that obsession. And while I was there, I go, why are shakers? Okay, they're always derrick on these offshore. So we buy a company in the UK called Full Rig Tech. And they had this great new technology design and shakers, but they only had certain markets. And I immediately was like, wow, we never see them. We never see their product. It's always derrick. And I started asking questions. None of my business, not even in that division, but I'd be like, why derrick? Well, they sell to oil companies more than they do to the rigs, and so they really are close with oil companies. We're not so close with all of them, and they're really good in the US. And so I became obsessed with that, and then we had Tuboscope merged in with Varco, and they had Brandt, and I'm like, okay, Brandt, that's a big shaker company. And so I really was obsessed with this package idea. Early rig I was on in the Mediterranean, it had National on everything. And I remember going, wow, who's this National? We were adding a top drive. But I liked that. And so I heard, well, they used to do packages of equipment. And I thought, this is the answer. It's so much cleaner. All the books are the same. We can work on the equipment, same people to call. So I was getting obsessed with that. And so I started looking at how can we get Brandt in. And so when I was a young guy asking these questions, they gave me packages. And so from being of an architectural background, I was immediately like, yeah, let me work on this. And so I loved being this drilling rig architect, and so obsessed with what worked, what didn't. We often sent rig equipment out and we didn't know if it was good or bad. So I'd love to go when it was a year old and go see it and ask them, how's it going, how's it working? And so that environment and the rig and equipment obsession is normal. Yeah. People who are in our business, there's a connection to equipment that's kind of weird. Yes. So that's worked, and it doesn't end for me. There's not some other new thing that's happening that I want to know about. So I would go to drilling conference and I'd sit in stuff I'd nothing to do with us. Sit in all of the sessions and make notes, and most people would be like, you really want to sit here? And I'm like, yes, I'm trying to work out what they're talking about. So I'm just weird that way, and loving the history of brands and when they come in and making sure they stay valuable. So yeah, I'm odd because I just have that architectural need to know enough. Don't need to know everything. So most engineer brains are like, you have to know everything in a subject. And so, I kind of get away with it.
Wow. So much involved in there. How do you, as far as, so you guys bring on these brands, how do you then be able to, kind of maintain that culture of obviously you guys have built something with NOV and you're bringing in new people at all times. So obviously your position there, of leadership is to be able to, make sure everybody's still moving in the right direction. How do you maintain that?
I don't know that that's the position of leadership, but that's okay. Many leaders think that. Many of them think they're in control of everything, and I don't know that's true. It's understanding that every brand that comes in, there's a pretty detailed process before they come in to go, is this a good fit? We believe in them if they come in, we believe they can grow. So I don't go visit them all and say, here's your new colors, here's your new thing. We don't do that
at all. Here's the tattoo you need to get.
Yeah, here's the tattoo. Sorry about the last one. We used to fake that all the time. Get some guy from the workshop to put on a fake tattoo and go, what do I do about this? Every time you change a logo. But you want them to still love their brand, and when you buy them, it's because they're good. We don't buy them because they're cheap, or we don't buy them because it's not. It's because they're good and we believe in them. And so we kind of leave them alone in a lot of ways from a management standpoint. And we offer, this is where we're going as a company. And if you're not going that way, you go the way you're going. And over time, we hope you understand the logic. And it's very different than most companies. Most companies, what we're doing, you must do it. And suddenly people leave because you destroy value by telling them, I'm better at your business than you are. There's some things we are not negotiable. So IT, HR, legal stuff, all of that kind of HSE has to be there. So that'll all be brought in. But as far as what you're doing and how you're growing, usually we've learned smaller companies do better because we could take them international immediately. And so then the only advice we're giving them is don't grow too fast in the way that you can't deliver. And then filter out, everyone's excited about what's good business. And so, but we let them grow themselves. It's a more human way of thinking about it. Fundamentally, the corporate idea that people are corporate and we do corporate things is more for robots than humans. Robots can do corporate things. They can repeat and do everything you want them to do. Humans have to buy in and they have to decide, is this good for me? And you don't see corporate babies. No one says, I love your new baby, it looks so corporate. It's not a human trait, it's an anti-human trait. So it says stop having feelings, pretend your family's perfect, and everyone will pretend that and we'll all be cool, make your life just seem like nothing's going wrong. It's just not right. And so it's more messy. Life is more messy, people are more messy. And brands are like that. And when they come in, they all feel the culture. I'll see this. I go visit places. I find a new company that we have, and you visit them, and they always have this little secret they're trying to hide. You know, like we had the MD Taco guys after there was a tornado ran through some families' houses in Oklahoma. They shut down the plant, and everyone went up and just did some rebuild and help. And they did it like without telling anyone. And so culturally,
One of your employees just called me.
good. It's like, what are you doing? He's lying. but you find it in the culture of everybody, and they have this consistency of, we're going to do the right thing for employees. We're going to care for our people. And it's not some edict where we say, care for your people. That's who we are. They just are that way. So we've had a weird, small companies all behave in the same way. And since we all came into the company from small companies, the management team we have, they all started on a shop floor or on the field, or none of them were like, I've been corporate all my life. So people who behave that way find it really hard to fit, because we don't even me in a corporate job, I just don't like being in a corporate job because I always dislike the idea of corporate. So it fits well. Everyone's uncomfortable with I'm one of those guys who does nothing, because all your life you said those guys do nothing. Which of course isn't true, but you know, we're comfortable enough to know that we're always thinking about how can we add value to the company. But yeah, it's been a good experience. I think most brands come in, love it, enjoy the culture, realize it's similar, and then grow because of the other companies.
So what are some of the things you're excited about? So like through some of the acquisitions or technology, things that are happening in the industry right now, what's something that's got you, like energized, waking up every day that you're excited to be able to go attack that
so many things. There's some the automation. For a lot of what I do is look at our longer strategy and what we're doing and why. So when it comes to fruition and you have kids that are, they're birthed and they're starting to grow, I get excited about that. So long journey towards automation has been really interesting. Because in our early packaging, we standardized equipment. We started moving to standard equipment with this fundamental belief that the future is software. So 2001, believe it or not, we'd just gone through Y2K, and me and a guy in Maersk were talking, and I said, look, stop.
I went through Y2K.
Yeah, you know what that is?
Yes. It's just the funny, like, we got through it.
Well, it was amazing. The year before, we were like, okay, Prince, you're going to party like it's 1999, but we're a bit worried because it's 2000 and all our computers are going to fail. So everyone was panicked. So when we got through it and it all worked, and we're like, okay, everyone's computer working good. You suddenly realize this isn't going to get better. We're not going to be less dependent on computers. And so myself and this other guy working on one of our first drilling packages kind of said, I said, stop buying for the machines that you like and start thinking about how can they talk to each other, one rig to another. If the system's the same, the machines are going to want to know, what did you do? Oh, good, I'll do that. And that's going to happen in a software area. So we need to stop thinking about having cool different capabilities and realizing if we have similar systems, they can learn from each other. So around 2000 as well is the first time we said every single control system we have has to connect to the internet. And everyone was like, really? I said, well, will the customers let us? I'm like, I don't care. If they don't do it, it's fine. We just have to make this ability to remotely connect. So we started doing remote connectivity, not really knowing where it was going, but understanding it was important. So today, as we're connecting into the drill bits and saying, okay, whole BHA, you tell me what to do for a drilling rig. So suddenly the BHA is driving. It's a beautiful thing, and we did all our investment in the upturn for this operating system that's working now. So other people who are trying to catch up with us are like, oh no, let's get some extra money and do the right thing. And they're like, you can have half of that. Whereas back then we were able to put money in and build an operating system where we could mindfully think about what do we need if we're going to add apps, if we're going to connect systems down. So we did a lot of background work for the downturn. And so seeing that work right now is probably one of our few things that are just going gangbusters inside the company. And it took a while for even the company was like, why do we want this? Why do we want a software? They'd asked, actually, the original ask was, we got 2 computer controlled drilling chairs, can we make them one? And so I kind of whispered in there, yeah, no, not one. We need something that sits on top. We need an operating system that runs apps. And we started doing that. And when we launched it, people were like, where's the chair? It's like, yeah, it's not about a chair. we'll do the chair. That's really easy work. But the software, that means...
Do an IKEA chair.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be all right. It's the least of our worries. But a system that sits on top and installs in 11 hours, I mean, competitive work was taking at the time 18 months to get a system to work. So watching that come alive and start to grow, watching wire pipe come alive after a decade, and seeing it all start, when it starts to work, that's exciting for me. I mean, there's stuff out ahead that I can't talk about because it's in development, but...
Well, tell me everything you're not supposed to say.
No, okay. No, but there's a lot. I do like this idea of empowerment of people to do their own services. I really like it. We have been running.
And so this is for the Novos system, correct?
Novos helps it.
Okay.
But so our MPD group, I mean, we basically made all the tools that MPD companies make, put them together, tested them, made them work, but then run them on our test rig where the driller just says, run MPD. And it does it. And there's not 10 people, 8 people visiting, at high cost. Suddenly, it's what it should be. Rigs should have all of these capabilities built in. And so I think all of that gets really exciting where if you saw it in offshore rigs, where suddenly there was, 40 beds to 200 beds. Wait a minute, who are these guys? And why do you need them? And so do we really need all these people to do this job? And how much money is that costing us? And I mean, what Novos is giving is if you're drilling and everything is on time, like if I know it takes this long to make a connection every time and it takes this long to do this, and I can predict overall around Wednesday at 3 o'clock, I'm going to need the casing crew or the cementing crew. Compared to today, well, it's going to be Wednesday-ish, I think, but we better be ready in case we run fast. So turn up Monday, and then it might be Friday.
I'll call you.
Yeah, or no, they'll sit there. They'll come in and make money. It's a big part of service cost that no one says that's waste.
Yeah.
They just go, no, we have to do that.
I'm glad you say it because that was probably one of the most difficult things as an MWD coordinator, having to call the field hands out because they'd be calling me, hey, when's the rig starting? They told me it should be picking up about Friday, so you probably need to head out Thursday.
Right.
And then on Wednesday, they'll call me again. Hey, are we still on for Friday? Yeah, everything's looking good. And then it'll be Thursday after. Stop what you're doing. It's just
go slow or go fast. Either way, get them out here or not next week.
It's the hurry up and wait syndrome.
But it's waste. It's massive waste. We brought our top end manufacturing people into the drilling rig environment, and they just were like shocked. They were so excited. It goes, how much waste do you live with? It's cultural waste. It's rule of thumb. It's things that cost you money. The supply chain behind this. I mean, we learned to develop. I mean, we make top drives in California, right next to Disneyland. So if you started from a starting company, you wouldn't say, "What's the most expensive real estate in the world?" I know, right next to Disneyland. Let's go there. It just so happens that I all built around them. It's expensive. Wages are tough, and we pay people well in that environment. We have no unions. But they beat out with just looking at process and squeezing things and learning how to reduce cost. They beat out some of our Poland work and some of our Chinese work. We definitely, Houston and merger, we moved a lot of the top drives out to California because they've done so much work on that cost efficiency. So those same people, when they get to a drilling rig site, they're like, this is so rich of waste. Like rule of thumb of everyone making sure nothing ever goes wrong. Like, invest in that. They rearrange the plant so that things never go into storage. They turn up, they go straight to the machining location. The POs are all pre-arranged. There's no writing up and negotiating. People get qualified. Our engineers go into our suppliers' location and teach them how to get better so that we can all be on the same page. We tell them what we think we're going to do this year. They can plan, saves us all money. Great thinking that's nowhere near. Oilfield's got a long way to go on that kind of supply chain side, so that's kind of exciting. But that comes out of having a consistent performance.
So how do you guys plan on being able to potentially change that cultural aspect in the oil field then? Because obviously, as more of automation or remote work or just even process changes, if you get something cool and new out to the boots on the ground out into the field, if they're like, I don't like it, it doesn't work.
That's mostly the answer. Yeah.
How do you guys combat that?
Well, it's culture change, which is a challenge. So I think before we started DSATs, which is the automation group in SPE, we had a panel and we all agreed that the only problem was culture. It wasn't technology. All of these things could be done. All the things we were dreaming of at that time, we could do. And so then how do we make it work? And so culture has been the challenge, and thinking through how do you get the right people. And so I think when you start, doing a startup of a new technology is really important. Who's involved and what's their culture? To the company culture, when something fails first time, do they go up, throw it off? Okay, don't choose them as a partner, Do they go tell the world, it wasn't me? Don't choose them, they're really bad news. There's people do that every time they did it, terrible technology. So we've been through that many times. So finding people who are willing, like they have a longer vision and they know they want to do it. And then when you get to bringing it to the field, bringing in all the people involved and saying, this is what we're thinking. So our difference between good and bad jobs is always the crew are on board, they understand what it means for their job, they understand why they would do it. And so once you get your early adopter trying it, and then you try another one, and usually there's enough bugs there, you got to fix them. So then you have to fix the bugs so the next guy who will not tolerate learning, once he's in, okay, you've got your followers, then just competition takes care of it. Once we really look at the world of there's these people who are willing to do it. There are some crazies who, if they do it, nobody cares because they always do crazy stuff and maybe they don't understand business. Then you've got the guys who are a bit crazy, but they understand business. Then you got the guys who watch those guys. That is the gate to the open market. And once it happens is when you get that tipping point that suddenly the product will just become normal. For me, I'm really early in that phase. When I see it going, I'm out. I don't need to be there anymore. So from even automation a number of years ago, I was like, I'm out. And they're like, what do you mean? We're just starting. And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to be okay because you know what to do. So I'll go check in every now and again, but I'll be thinking about what else. So I'll go to the next.
You can go off on your own now.
Yeah, I go do other things, but there's always other things to do because there's, if you think that was, 15 more years ago that I started kind of dreaming up where we wanted to go there, it was a long journey. So there's other things that are long journeys that we're on.
So do you have any times where you're like, man, I really, because maybe you get an idea about, some of the stuff that's happening out at the rig? Are there any times you're like, I want to get, I've got an idea for an app or something like that? Or do you just like, hey guys, do this for me, please?
Yeah. Try this out. I'm not really good at it. So I'm good at having the idea, but I can't execute. I'm no engineer. So if I have a good engineer partner and you can feed, hey, try this and ask questions, those kind of people will say, hey, have you ever thought, how does this even work? If I'm in conferences and I hear something, I'm like, they're missing it. We need to do this. Or I'll send that note to the kind of person who can't let it go. So really good inventors are like, just whisper it and they're off.
Just plant a seed.
You can't stop them. They're going to solve it. And you don't even say do it. You're just like, have you ever thought of it? Yeah, I have actually. And then there's a drawing and then there's a calculation. And the original top drive designer, George Boyjeff, he was our CEO when I was in California, and the engineers hated him because he invented everything. And so they hated him because they're like, we did that, because he had an idea, but we made it happen. And so he was a guy I would just often go up, and old Varco, all management had to have their desk against the wall. They had a lot of pre-thought out how humans should behave. And one was you should never have someone who thinks they're lower than you on the other side of a desk, which was amazing. But so it would be against the wall. You go in, round table, George is there, he'd spin around, it's just you and him sitting talking. And I just go, here's something that we've been thinking about that we can't solve. Anyway, within 2 hours, there's a drawing. He's a CEO. He shouldn't be doing that. But I learned that type doesn't take much. So usually I don't, I do know I have lots of ideas that are useless. So that's good news. That's a learning, is that you can't love your ideas. So I just have a lot of them. So generating ideas, easy for me. But executable, good business case. When you kill it, learning to kill early. I learned that in product management. It's like the sooner you can kill something, the better. Go at it with all strength and then go, nah, try something else. So.
Well, that's a great segue into one of the things we talked about a little bit beforehand, which was, doing the business case and process. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing with NASA. And,
oh yeah, that's fun. Just say NASA and everyone's like, what? We're doing something with NASA?
Oh, you gotta say Stargate.
Stargate is more important. Sorry, NASA. Actually, you sit with NASA and they often go, have you tried SpaceX? Because they're going at quite a speed. So we do a bit with all of them. But they a while back, it's actually SpaceX started the thought when they got a deal to set their launch pad in South Padre Island. And so that was kind of set. We need no housing around, we need all this. And the Texas government was like, yes, we will give you that. And then they did a deal with UT Rio Grande Valley, where they gave them a location, the only location near the launch pad, where they have a bunch of PhDs just working on space type solutions for SpaceX. And so that began what's starting to become a vibrant community in South Texas of people interested in space work, because they're all working on how do we live on other planets, how do we, not only how do we get there, but how do we build intermittent locations to stop and then go on. And so they're playing with all this crazy stuff. But in the mix, NASA has all these patents, I think it's 14,000 patents. And they wanted to know, can we work with the oil and gas business to use some of these? They want it commercialized. They're under pressure, not to make money from it, but to say it's worth something. Because they would be going, we're doing this project, it's a moon whatever. And then they go, nope, we've changed our mind, we're doing this project, it's a Mars. And so all this technology that they thought up may or may not apply, and some of it sits on a shelf. So they have all these ideas that sometimes never saw the light of day, but really great ideas. So they said, okay, let's do this thing called Rockets. Rockets and Rigs is the name of it. And anyone can join in. But we started down in the SpaceX location. I did a presentation on our needs as an industry. Here's some things, I'm really good at that. If we could do this, it would change everything, like future challenges that we're not solving right now. So I did a whole list of, if you could do these things, that's cool for us. And they said, if you could do these things, that's cool. Can we, there are things that match there. So we started with that. Then we went to NASA, we were all in Johnson, and did a review of all their patents and kind of honed it down. And we got, okay, here's 14 technologies we're pretty sure oil and gas could use. So then we did, last thing was also down by Johnson, and we did a hackathon. So teams were set together, everyone competed in a simple exercise. People who won got to choose their favorite technology, number two got to choose theirs. We didn't win. This was a classic spaghetti and marshmallow tower building exercise. If you've ever done those. Team building usually is why they do it. But there was a winner. They didn't tell them you win or lose, but the person with the biggest tower, okay, you choose the first technology. So they had a great water purification, high volume technology, so they chose that. And my team chose a chemical sensor that sits outside of non-metallics and can actually read the contents, as well as where it is and what it is. So so an external sensor to any kind of fiberglass or non-metallic. So we looked at that, and we actually wrote to a bunch of CTOs and oil companies and said, check out this video, take 5 minutes out, and then tell me what you imagine we could do if we had this. And all of them, funnily enough, within 20 minutes I had answers from all these oil companies. I could do this, I could do that, I could do it. And we're like, okay, so we filtered, and we came up with an application. And so yesterday was our first, we had talked to our fiberglass business. We've got very large fiberglass and composite company. And so we worked with them and said, where could you use it? And that turned into a phone call last week where they're like, let's make a business case. Let's spend time looking at the risk analysis. And I said, well, we're ready to do it now. So why don't we just come to our place in San Antonio and we'll look through it. And if there's no barrier, just do tests. We'll give you free samples. We do tests. Then we take it to market. And they were like, I said, I can go as slow as you want. However, let's just go at this and see, is it something? And if it's not, let's move on and do something else. So they were very excited, but not used to it. They're used to the normal corporate, let's build all the paperwork, make sure that we're sure. And so that it's just culturally very different in how you build products. Because there's always a gut sense with everything. Does that make sense to me? And if that gut sense doesn't work, if you take a business case to a leader or just a fast look and they go, I'd like to see more analysis. In most conversations, that means no. It's a business person's way of going, it's not working for my gut, prove me wrong. And even if you come back with a bulletproof analysis, generally they'll say, I don't think so. Or if they think you're at risk of leaving the company, they might let you keep doing it. But in truth, you just got to go, no, it's a no. Okay, if you don't get it, it doesn't make sense to your gut, we're probably going to waste our time. Let's get on. So we've been going along that with this business group going, still yesterday's gut check, yeah, still good. 3 or 4 applications. Yeah, so it's really fun. It's fun to work with those people. They're just very cool. The things they work on and think about is fun. So yeah, it's a fun project.
How did the guys with the high volume water solution turn out?
They're still trying to have their first meeting. So I'll probably be in their first meeting.
Oh, so now they're recruiting you over to their team.
Well, I said I would do something with it. The problem is we have oil companies there. We have different people. We had high school students, like super smart high school students, PhDs, but none of them could do something fast. I mean, for us to go build a sensor and test it is like, could do that any day. But if another company, now you got to say, okay, let's start a business. It will be a startup company. How do you start them up? Who's going to have a part of it? They're trying to answer all those questions early, and if it does, where does it go? And when it moves to this, who gets what, and what does everybody want? And it's just way too much paperwork. If we're going to invite lawyers in, let's just wait a year. You know, oil company lawyers, that's 1 year, you know, or 6 months maybe if they're really fast. You know, so it's like we just don't have time. So you have to be more practical. So we're trying to make it move faster, but I think they have something. It's a really interesting technology. So yeah.
So if somebody invites a lawyer to the party, you can just say,
Just
okay, I'll come back with another
lawyer.
birthday.
It's not any lawyer, but oil companies have all these other things to consider, and they want a lot of it, and they sometimes lose the rationale of, can you do that? If you own this sensor and you built it, how would you produce it? Oh, we don't manufacture. Okay, then what would you do? Then we'll have a big bid system, we'll have multiple people come in, and that'll take me, it's years. So going fast isn't natural to them because they don't make product. But our guys, I mean, our application is actually not really fitting for ExxonMobil's one of our partners. It's not a direct fit because we can put it on gas stations. We make all of the piping and tanks for about 50% of the US gas stations. This
Really?
sensor can tell you where the leak is. It's a wireless sensor. So you could know if we're leaking or not and where it is. Immediately, like tomorrow, I would use that. We could put that, package it in, and be a product. We're off. The other application is being able to read pipelines and where there's leaks in non-metallics, and that's just huge. If we can pinpoint any leak, it's worth it.
Joe Dancy was actually he's an energy law professor. He was on the show early on, and he talked about how the systems that are in place right now were less likely to detect a leak than just a random person walking by.
Yeah.
Like there's a higher percentage of just a random person walking by.
It's a job.
Going, oh, hey.
I mean,
then
a
the
lot
system's
of them,
built for it.
I have a friend came back from the military and took this job, walking along pipelines looking for leaks, up and down the U.S. That was his job. He found a better job. It wasn't a great job, but that was a job. You're like, oh my goodness, that's what we're doing. Yeah, so it's much in need. Interestingly, this was the conversation yesterday that got the NASA and Stargate people.
Yeah, kind of say Stargate.
Stargate. They, I said, okay, this is a good business, but it's got no money in it. And they were like, what? I said, the relative what they're paying. I mean, the risk, you could get money, but it will take time. So I'm not saying that will deliver money now. Because the legislation protects the gas station, they'll jump on it. So gas station is legislated. The other is, you know, what we do okay right now. Nobody's saying this is a problem. So now you're in. Can you prove it? If you can prove it, can it be legislated? If it's not legislated, people take the least path. because they're businesses, and so the money doesn't really add up. The volume would add up, but it's just a time thing. So I was kind of going through, here's the quick look thoughts. I can add this to gas stations tomorrow. So let's prove it, and then add it to gas stations tomorrow. And now we have enough to build a business that will feed the business now. So it's always like if you have kids and you want to save for college, don't cut the food budget, because they do need to live. Same with businesses. People get this wrong all the time. I have a business plan. It's going to be great in 5 years. Like, okay, so how? Oh, I'll go to venture capitalists. Okay. Now you're keeping yourself alive with, now other people own part of your company. They're driving it, they're changing it, they're doing whatever they want with it. You've lost yourself in it, but you're just trying to stay alive. So that ability to produce any product fast in a new product is critical. If you find something that you can sell that allows you to grow to the bigger things, if you just focus on the bigger things, you're going to be for sale way too early. And your technology is going to be someone else's before you wanted it to happen, and you don't own it, you don't get to grow it. So that ability to make money quick is really important in any product. It has to feed itself.
I know that, like, when I started my company, like, I think it was within 30 days we got our first check or whatever that came in, and I was just like over the moon about it. I was like, and then within 2 months I was like, we're profitable.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the best thing ever.
But you were doing something that produces money now.
Yeah. And it always makes me go back and look. It's like, why aren't more startups doing this? Like, why do you need $5 million and beanbag chairs?
Yeah.
I don't. But I understand some people are shooting for the moon and bigger stuff, and I was like, I want to shoot for as small and as niche as I can, and then grow off of that.
It's the books that are the problem. People write books that are one person telling their story the way they remember it. And it all sounds like I had a brilliant idea, and then it went amazing. End of story. Look at me,
it's a good read.
Me. And it is, but the truth is there are all these other people sitting looking at the book going, really? You forgot me and them and these other people? And it's not true. It's not true that people control their destiny by having this great dream. It's that they bring people along, that they have a sustainable plan, that they're willing to adjust. They don't say that. They don't say we really had this idea and we were completely wrong, and then over time we adjusted and it was this idea. They say we had this idea, which was not the original. The original was something stupid that didn't work, and so you meander your way through, and you become something great. But your backward story is a whole lot better than the journey.
I'm gonna throw an idea out there and see if this sticks.
Do I have to buy it?
You have to produce it.
Okay.
The NOV book of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because you guys are purchasing a lot of companies. So like it could be a series every year.
I did it in video, and I wasn't sure why. Sometimes we do video and documentary stuff on a gut feel, and I actually asked the guy. I said, "Here's those crazy entrepreneurs I've known. Here's a list of them, all retired now. Go film them. Just ask them their stories." And so we have it. We've not produced it at all. We just have. The problem is we got all this other feed me now stuff right now, and times are hard. So I got all this better produce this stuff because it leads to sales. But I have this sitting in a catalog. But when I did, 3 of the people on the list were no longer with us. So it's like, this is a real immediate. We've got to capture it because you lose it. That our original CEO, the top drive inventor, we went out to California and I got to do the interview, which I was so glad because I'm like, you're an engineer, so no slight on engineers, but this was like a social experiment. The way the company behaved and treated people in the company was unheard of. Today it's still crazy how much you trusted people, how much you made it about people instead of technology when we were all about technology. I was like, where did that come from? And I love being able. There was a consultant they used way back then, very out there, different thinking German consultant, who told them this foundation of you have a moral responsibility to grow the company for your people. So we do technology to help our people, because when we grow it, we create more jobs and opportunities. So they had this different inside-out view. So they made top drives to save people's jobs and create a great work environment and pay people well in California without unions.
Wow.
It was amazing. But interesting. It's great to go find those people, hear the stories, and have recorded them.
I think that would be great for anybody that's in the oil industry, because I'll say this, I've been in the industry long enough where I've heard this, from more than one person, and them say, I'm going to come up with an idea that the industry can't live without, and then I'm going to sell it to NOV and retire.
Yeah.
So how does it make you feel hearing that?
Good.
That's part of like people's dream is just like, I want to come up with a great idea.
And selling it to us is this happens. People choose us over everybody else because of what it's like if you build a product and you sell it to any other company, high chance it might never live in 10 years. High chance. With us, they all live. And so if your kids are going to live, you're going to put them with a good home. If you're going to have to move away from them.
I want my kids to live. Yeah.
It's a concept, but people don't see it that way. We get people approaching us, and honestly, we get better deals. But you'll take less money that you can live on well for my all my life's work paid off. So people like it. We like that too. It's important that the brand and product lives. Very rare they don't. So.
Well, let's pause real quick. If anybody's watching, please comment.
Face it, it's just you and me.
There are several people watching.
Is yours updated? Because I've got 66 here.
Mine has been updating. We've got 86 right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're in the NOV family, be sure to share this. Let other people within the NOV organization be able to get the opportunity to be able to interact here with David. If you have any questions and you're within the NOV family and you want to ask, if you're an operator or service company, or even if you're unemployed, I don't care. Everybody's more than welcome to be able to ask questions and interact. I should say, because I haven't been doing a good job of marketing myself, this is brought to you by Gibson Reports, Directional Drilling Market Share Report. Go check out the website, gibsonreports.com. As well as you can follow me and follow David on LinkedIn.
True.
He's always putting out great content, which we'll go into the next thing about this week's event earlier. What I should say is the mixer from earlier this week.
Yeah.
So, guys, yes, please keep hitting the like button. I noticed we've got people watching from Saudi, India, Spain, Huntington Beach, Seattle, Istanbul, Ukraine, Bakersfield, Houston, Austin, Midland. So Kevin Sheed's watching. Nee, who's over at the technology.
I don't know Nee. Just kidding, Nee. I know you. You were just in my office.
He's a great guy. So thanks guys for watching. We do appreciate it. Eric Allen, guys over at Dynaqual, thanks so much for watching as well. Guys, start shooting off some questions. I'll start asking them. I haven't seen any as of yet, but maybe it's just because my phone's not updating. It's hard to be able to get my feed on my phone, my account, so usually I have to hand over and get it from my mom's. So, got another one, Rob Gilmore, Alberta, Canada. So we
Canada's
worldwide.
in. Canada's in. Who are we missing? Europe. Where's Europe?
Yeah, we haven't got.
They all went home.
Well, Turkey's in both.
Okay, I'll take Turkey.
Istanbul.
I'll take Turkey.
I've actually done the ferry ride there.
Yeah. You said ferry.
Yeah.
Okay,
ferry.
I thought you said ferry. We're not far from Austin. I didn't know. I don't know what you believe, but
This is so much fun, you guys. This is why I do this. This is why I do this. You completely throw me off. Completely throw me off. So we've talked a lot about your background and the stuff with the NOV. Talk to me a little bit about RedM and Redeem Ministries. So the event we had earlier this week at the Houston Zoo, the international mixer event.
Yep.
A lot of people came out. How did you get into, starting it, pioneering, being part of the board? Tell me a little bit of the story behind there.
I think for everyone, the balance of life is really important. And so finding whatever you're doing in work, finding other things than just work. So work is good and important. Family is really important. And then after that, finding something else that you can do with your life that has more purpose is really something that I've lived for many years. So my wife, when the kids were leaving home, were about to leave home, we had a conversation that said, okay, when the kids are gone, who are we? What are we going to be like? Because we've been all about the kids. Everything's been them. So now we're going into another phase, and let's kind of think about that. So my wife went off, and she came back and says, I got it. Human trafficking. And I'm like, I hear the money's good, but I don't know that it's a good thing to do humanly. And she's like, no, fighting human trafficking. I was like, oh, like also tough. I hear that's not good. I've watched a few movies. And she actually did undercover work. Originally, we were aware of an organization.
So your wife's an undercover agent?
She did some. She actually had, I'm not going to tell you that.
So this is why she doesn't want to be on camera.
That's right.
We've got
Not anymore. We stopped that.
Would she have to be like...
No. She originally, we went, they're going to get me off. So we went and worked, the organization that was really fighting human trafficking and doing recovery well was called A21, and they were based in Thessaloniki in Greece. So my sister lives in Greece. So we went, okay, let's do a vacation and then we'll go see A21. So we had to meet, it's very secretive and it's really funny when you get in the world. But the problem is in trafficking is the people behind it, they've changed their business. Their business was guns and drugs, and now they're like, hey, guess what? Humans can make more money over time. And so they've switched to this giant business, 150 billion we estimate. I actually think it's higher in that business. Wow. And so we thought it was an international human trading thing. So to understand trafficking, you think it's just moving people from countries to do labor or sexual work, sexual oriented business, they call it here. But we learned about that, and then when my wife got told you have to stay here for 6 months, she's like, I'm not going to live in Greece. So we came back to Houston, and she was pretty down. And there was an article in the Chronicle about a 14-year-old girl who had been sex trafficked, and they'd kind of solved this case. And the lady who wrote it was a good friend, became a good friend of ours, and so her name's Dottie Laster. So she was working in the legal sphere to help refugees and traffic people to get through court. So so my wife worked with them because we didn't know how bad it was in the U.S. Then we eventually learned the U.S. is the hotbed for human trafficking. And so Texas numbers, as of 2016, they estimate around 313,000 people in Texas being trafficked at that time. When you get down to the sex trafficking, they're aiming, it's really a mind control game. And so it used to be international people that they were bringing in, but they've actually started targeting 12 to 14-year-olds because of their vulnerability. So they need vulnerability. And it looks like, in sex trafficking, it looks like a young girl has got an older boyfriend. And he keeps buying her stuff. And she has like really nice purses and a new iPhone. And it's not good. I don't know, but she's got this boyfriend and she's starting to be rebellious. So they're playing on the natural teen rebellion. Mm-hmm. And they draw them away and they look like runaways. That's just it's happened to a lot of oil and gas execs where we've had to have people literally go and retrieve kids as they get taken. And that's not something you can call the police and they solve easily. They go, it's a runaway. So, I mean, we'll just wait. Waiting is the worst thing that can happen. Most runaways within 2 days will be in trafficking. There's a high as like 75% of runaways pulled into trafficking. They're looking for them. Wow. And now with social media, they're watching the behavior. So we learned all this. We got involved, and my wife got involved initially with massage parlors that are actually brothels. And so in that early case, that was international women trapped inside a building they use various mind control methods, often violence, but the disruption to the human being is incredible. So each instance where they will force them to tell a story, to behave a certain way, so that the person who's using the services thinks they're just getting a happy ending in a massage. That's something people are used to hearing. But it's full-on prostitution. And same with strip clubs. They'll bring them in young, they'll lie about their ages, they'll draw them in, and they have this journey they put them on so they can get them into prostitution. And so we were looking at that, and Beth was looking at why it's never been reported in Houston. So for a long time you'd hear, there's nothing wrong, Houston's okay, we don't have a problem. As we kind of got into it, we started to realize that we had a really big problem, and for some reason it's not getting out. And at first there was a lot of paranoia. Is someone getting paid off? Is something going on? These are big cartels. Are they making people, forcing people not to talk? Who knows what's going on? But we did a calculation around that time and said, okay, this is easy, because before we pulled Backpage can't do this anymore, but there was a website called Backpage. You could go and you could find massages or escorts or whatever. You could find it on there. And it became a website that told you the location of brothels. And so we did a calculation off of that and came to there are more brothels in Houston than Starbucks. So yeah, there's a lot. That's not even getting into other forms of prostitution. There's a couple of known streets you can go to, and what they will do, the traffickers, that was a lot of international. As we started learning about the US contingent, last I heard, was at 85% of sexual orientated businesses are running Americans. So these are people who are not from another country. They're people, so they look for vulnerability. So you've got that category, which is just teens. They have the foster system. As soon as they drop off the foster system, that's a target for them. And it's not just young. You'll find we've had a 60-year-old that we've taken out of trafficking. So she was on a dating site and suddenly was being prostituted. And it's not just as young as 12. There's a market for much younger.
So it's not just runaways. They're targeting people on dating apps.
Anybody. They don't care. They need vulnerability and access, and then feeling isolated, and they'll prey on that. And what they have is the same as what's happening in international. Is it's mind control. And so we actually sit with the recovered ladies and go, can you see that your story and your story and your story are identical? And they believe it just happened that way. I had this boyfriend and he was going to San Diego and it sounded like fun. And we were running out of money and he knew a friend who really thought I was cute. And he said he was willing to pay to just go on a date, no big deal. And so either it's done through the, oh no, I'm falling into it to help us with money. Can you believe I just made $1,000? To, if that doesn't work for them, they do go into beating and abuse. And so there's a mix of fear and love. They all come out believing that's their boyfriend. And it takes about, 8 months before they might even believe that's not your boyfriend. You'd say there was 9 of you. How could that be your boyfriend? No, but I was what they call the bottom girl. I was which is the top person. So I was the closest. And they all have playing this emotional game of you're the one I love. And so it's really horrible. But what it means is when everyone's excited about talking trafficking, telling numbers, but when you get down to it, the hard work is recovering the life. So normally if you rescue them, some people do this. They're like, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to save those girls and boys. I'm going to save them. I'm going to get them out. When you get them out, you put them into shelters. 80% of them go back because they've been programmed. They also make sure they do some strip time so that they need to have a record. Once they have a record, no one's employing them. They can't go back. They've been so young and they've been so trained not to have a life or take care of themselves. They have no skills. They believe they're choosing. That turnover point of a human mind of I'm choosing this is my choice. They work on that. And so it's, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going deep into this, but it's
no.
It's a big subject. But so when you understand what's happening,
you're a multidimensional person. It's not just
true.
rigs.
So so anyway, we've worked as a recovery house because we worked with Redeemed first, and they would have people finish the program who need a halfway. They can't be right into society. It's too difficult for them because survival is quite hard. And so Redeemed has been seeing about the opposite number, 80% making it. And that's a really big number because it works the same as if you deal with the worst drugs. It's like those kind of percentages of survival. 20% are going to make it. So if you get up to 50, 60, 70, 80%, now you're doing the best that anyone knows. And so they're doing that, but it's a long and expensive process. Lots of people give their time to help these women go through it, and it takes specialized people. People can't keep doing it, so you get people to work in the house. They can't do it for over a year. It's pretty tough. It's a lot of trauma to be around every day and to deal with, and we give them equal time off. So it's a hard thing to fund, and the really good organizations are not advertising. Because the really good ones take all the money and they have so much compassion, it all goes to the victims. And they can't imagine telling people I need money. Because the head of Redeemed, when we sit and talk.
Is that Dennis, right?
Dennis,
Dennis,
yeah.
I met
So
Dennis.
Dennis and Bobby, they're a couple who've been doing it for over 10 years. Well, so Dennis, I'll sit with him and I'll go, you always have a baby at the door. And he's like, what? And I'm like, it's like if someone dropped a baby at your door and you knew it. Every time I'm talking to you, the baby's still there. You always have this compulsion to run to the door to help the baby. And that's good. But that's what I want to help with. And so we started RedM because I got to be on the board finally. My wife was on the board, then I went on. As soon as I saw the numbers, I'm like, your problem's money. And they'd be like, well, yeah. We're not for profit. And I'd be like, no, but if people knew your story, they'd give you money. If they fully understood this, they'd give you money. The problem is marketing. It's not, you don't have time to, you can't afford marketing. And they showed me their stuff. They were very proud of this brochure they showed me. And I was like, wow, you got a flyer. Good luck. What are you going to do, hand on the streets? What? And then we started RedM. I wrote a post on LinkedIn. And within one day, there was 35,000 views. And I was like, that's interesting. This is getting traction. And it was going deeper beyond my network. So one of the guys at work said, hey, I want to help. What can I do? And I said, all right, well, we need to set up an event as soon as we can. And so there's a coffee shop in Houston called A Second Cup. And they just fight trafficking. That's their main thing. So we were able to get their space for nothing. And I said, okay, open invite. In 4 days, who wants to come? So on the 5th day, we were 125,000 views. And we had 50 people in the room.
Wow.
And I just said, I just need people to help do free marketing. Who's in? And 48 of the 50 knew nothing about trafficking, which is very common. In fact, we broke up into 5 groups. I said, what's your specialty? And I'm making it up. I turned up at night and I just wrote words for marketing type things that you could do, put them on tables, said, sit at the table that is your specialty. And I said, okay, here's yellow stickies. Let's brainstorm what you could do. Pick a person in the group to come up and speak. And the person who came up and speak, I said, you're in charge of this department. Make the products, prioritize them, make them. Well, we had a digital group. And I said, first I want you to analyze how well do people understand trafficking in the digital sphere? And they came back and said, from the numbers, everyone who's working in trafficking is watching the information about trafficking. That's it. No one new is getting this information. And the truth is, it's a shocking story. And telling people a shocking story, it doesn't work. So I actually went after, how were towns around Auschwitz? How were towns around all the death camps? How did they survive? What did they do when they knew atrocity is in your midst, in your time? And what they did was they built shutters for their windows so that they wouldn't see the flames or smell or be aware of what they knew was happening. And what they had was enough fear that the Nazis are going to get us if we try and do something. And traffickers, same. They need us to be terrified of them. And they're scary people. Anyone who's gone and retrieved their child just stole from the mob. Do you know how that goes? Have you seen movies?
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. These are scary people. The people who have done that have had to move house, move their identity away. Anyone who speaks out against that part, it's dangerous. It's a really dangerous world. So their main thing is you're so afraid you won't do anything. That's what they want. They want to be in your limbic system, which is fight or flight. So inside of your brain, when you have some traumatic thing that you hear or see, you're going to either fight, flight, or freeze. Most people freeze. Some people take flight and just don't even want to know. And some people become rabid anti-trafficking people, and they are the worst people to take to dinner. They will not come back, and the conversation will stop. Because after this conversation, silence. Because, just like the people in Auschwitz, you have to do something or nothing. And depending on how scared you are, most people go, I'm going to protect my kids. That's all I'm going to do. Traffickers love it. They love that stuff. So we have this sociological challenge of how do we tell the story to people in a way where, so we did Golf for Good, which was similar to this other thing. We're not telling you everything. We're not driving past a car crash and getting you out of the car to look at the carnage. We just want you to wear a seatbelt, you know?
Yeah.
We just want you to make sure you appreciate the ambulances and the fire department. And so that's the whole thing, is how do we get professionals to do something where it doesn't consume their lives. Some of us, myself included, obsessed with the subject, we're immersed in it, but learning how to get a story out enough to go, if all you have is money, give it. RedM, people didn't have money, but they had skills to give us $2 million worth of marketing, and they did.
Wow.
So, and we have companies that just do it for free. There's a L Creative took on rebranding Redeemed, so they're going to have a whole new brand, which they did for free as a company. I had to sit and tell the company this is what it would take, and they're like, we're in. We're all going to do this for free. And so
wow.
we run events, we do different things. So we're just trying to help. There are good people all over the town, including the city, doing a good job of trying to get knowledge up. But right now, 100, maybe 110 plus women have come through the program. There's a lot more to do. So it's good. It gives people this help. Professional with purpose is important. Life has to have other meaning. And oil and gas has rallied, and there's lots of groups working around it. With all this OGTAG, which is an oil and gas only kind of get together, where we rally around everyone who's doing this kind of work. But RedM particularly is just a movement to get people to do something. And so we're doing that. We have maybe 300 people on LinkedIn. So look up RedM, the movement, on LinkedIn. Just join in. We do events all the time. And basically, everyone turns up and we have a what's in your pockets theory. So I don't want anything that you don't already have. So if you have a skill, well, if it's easy for you, just do it. You're a graphic designer, do it. You do movies, just do it. We'll give you, what do you want to do? We'll give you a project. And so if you have money, we love those people, just give money. I don't need anything else. If you got time, if you got a network, invite your friends. So everyone just does their little bit, and what it does is it makes this big scary thing happen where we can actually affect.
Really snowball effect of being able to get the message out there.
And 2 or 3 have started their own companies since, nonprofits that are. So our next event is August 6th at AWS, the Amazon building, city center. And one of the guys has started a business where he made a 3D environment for kids, where you can be in the home of a pre-trafficked teen and then in the trafficked environment. And so kids can get this experience to understand, I'm at risk and this is how bad it gets. So he'll be showing that. And then we have the mayor's office speaking on August 6th. So we have like a 6 o'clock, 1 hour social, everyone hangs out, we have a great time. Try and always keep it positive. And then you just get a bit of like, here's some real questions we can ask. So you always learn a bit about trafficking, but it's a social networking environment. Yeah. This was one of our people got asked, I think Mark LaCour asked me actually originally, does someone from RedM want to come? Because we'd like to start giving to RedM. And we said, well, RedM has no money. we're not a thing. There's nothing. There's no bank account. There's no offices. There's nothing to pay for. We just give directly. Everything is donated. He said, but I want to give you money. And I said, well, right now we're helping Redeemed. If you want, we can give Redeemed. And that's how that evening turned up. As they said, we want to keep giving to Redeemed. We like it. And so, now you get a bunch of people in a room. They get to hear a bit about it. They get to be involved if they want to. They get to ignore it if they want to. So we did a golf outing earlier this year. Same thing. A bunch of guys knew nothing. They had a great time playing golf. And at the end, they were like, oh, this is going to a good cause, I'll listen to it, and then suddenly they're aware, so you're educating.
I think it'd be great to be able to, because obviously, I've heard stories about OTC, that being a time span where that's like a hotbed in Houston, just for
anything, Super Bowl, major sports events, it draws the traffickers. One of the there's a Vimeo movie called Boom, and that is all about how shale has become a hotbed. It's one of the most traveled to trafficking spots, because you got man camps. Doesn't take much to take these poor kids and stick them in and pretend they're 18 and put them in a strip club that's fake, front for prostitution. So they do it. I mean, there's that actually goes in. This guy was pursuing truckers, which the new truckers were a challenge with trafficking, and so there's a great group called Truckers Against Trafficking. So oil and gas trains that into our truckers now. Well, this guy went after trucking, and the trucking business took him to shale.
Oh.
And when he got to shale, he realized it's not trucking, it's shale's the big story. And so now we're the victims. I saw it my whole life traveling. I saw, you're in Dubai and we go to a bar and there's Russian prostitutes. And you're in Korea and there's Russian prostitutes. And you're in Singapore. Everywhere there are these from other country prostitutes, not always Russian. But that was just 2 locations that came to my mind. And in hotels, and you'd go, that's weird, all these young girls seem to like all our old guys, and they're like,
Yeah.
they're prostitutes. And so
I
guys,
had that happen to me the first time I was in Abu Dhabi.
right,
I'm with a couple of guys. It's our first week working for Schlumberger and going through orientation. And I'm with some of the nerdiest engineering guys, and we're having great nerdy engineering conversations. And one of the goofiest guys in the group is then getting hit on, and I'm just like, wow.
they love
And then
nerds
the next
here.
guy is getting hit on, and then the next guy is getting hit on. And then finally I kind of look around and I'm like, either we've hit the mecca as far as us being like appreciated, or something's up here. And then one of the guys comes back and he's like, hey, can I borrow 500 dirham? And I'm like,
It's so sad.
what?
But
Why? I was like, no, I've got like 10. I can't.
yeah.
And then then it clicks and it's like, oh.
Yeah, so the traffickers look for vulnerability in the victims and in the demand side. They're looking for men who are away on their own, and they're going to draw them in. They're
And
just looking for any place. And so our industry has that kind of, situation. And so we become victims to them. And not that people should ever use prostitutes but if I don't go out to judge them all. I just go out to give you information. And so even if you find people in the industry who say, yeah, it's great, I was in Thailand and there's these great prostitutes, and you're like, they're children, that's rape. You understand that, right?
Yeah, it's not
And
a
they're
young woman, it's a child.
These are children, yeah. And they prefer looking older children, but they're children. Sometimes they're not, but either way, they have been abused to give you this front. And it's a huge business that we got to stop,
Well, thank you so much for talking about that. I really do appreciate it. And anybody that's looking for RedM and Redeemed.
Yep, redeemedministries.com if you want to find out about them. They're also on LinkedIn. But RedM, the movement, you'll find it on Instagram, Facebook, and then LinkedIn. We have a place you can sign up to the group, and we'll engage you.
So great job by Mark LaCour and those guys being able to put on the event Tuesday.
Yeah.
I went to I got done with an episode here. I was interviewing the guys from the CEO from Mobilize, Amit, and then it was like got in the car, drove to Houston, went to the event.
Yeah.
And then
I was impressed.
Specific only to meet.
That's what I said, but
only to meet you.
that was what I said.
Or actually just to be in the background of one of your photos.
You were, yeah. You managed to photobomb us, so good.
To be in the background of one of the photos. So guys, please look that up. If you can't find it, also you can find David Reid on LinkedIn. Follow him, connect with him, and then
We'll add links in the comments.
Okay.
yeah, we'll add links, and then when we take this from YouTube to podcast and format, we'll be sure to put all the links and stuff in there. So one of the things you talked about as far as social media, since you are the marketing guy for NOV,
It's true.
give me your thought process and your feelings on social media and how that's.
Yeah.
Or actually, before that, how did you go from the rig stuff to marketing? I mean, that's a
It's a good
I mean,
question.
there's a transition there, and then let's talk about a little bit about the social media side of things.
Originally, what happened was I was in service, and I engaged with customers. So at that time, literally, this is a true story, so I probably won't mention the name, but my boss goes, I turn up first day at work, and I said, okay, we're going to assess the cost. We're going to get in touch with the customer. How do you do that? Oh, we had these great Mac computers, which I thought was awesome in '92. So we can print this really nice fax. And then I'm going to write on it the guy's name, and then I write torque arresters, $1,300, and I'll send it to him. And I was like, huh, that's what we do. And they send us a PO. Yeah, that's the process. So I was just like, and I loved computers. So I'm like, do you mind if I write it on the computer inside the door? Is that okay? And do you mind if I explain what it is? And so I started to work on.
So the first electronic invoice within NOV.
It was it wasn't an invoice. It was just a quote.
I'm sorry. First
But
electronic
it's just what we
quote.
did. So then I started asking the guys, can you tell me how long you spent on this job? Oh, okay. So I made these procedures, and we were in the beginning of QA stuff, so they were like signing off on everything. Well, then I'd start taking pictures of before and after. Then I would stick it on a document that I would write up what went wrong. I'd go down to Woolworths, because no one had any ability to do this, and I'd lay it on their printer, and I'd get a color print, and I'd sell it for a lot of money as part of the package. Here's your report on what happened. Well, then customers would go, can you please come in and see us? And I'm like, I guess, am I allowed to go see them? Yeah, go see them. So I went into Psychoforex, and the guys were just like, this is brilliant. I mean, normally we fight with you over whether it's a warranty or not, but you showed us what we did to the machine, why it was wrong, and what we should do differently. And come with me. And they took me around all the rig managers. And I look at this guy. He did this thing, and I'm a kid. I'm just like, and there's a sales guy came with me because can't let the kid just go on his own. And they started describing technical solutions. They said, okay, well, pipe handlers on top drives, the main bar always bends because we had no crown and floor savers. So people would run top drives on the ground all the time. The pipe handler arm would bend. So I'm like, and they said, so you told us you're designing a new rigid connection between the pipe handler and the machine. And the sales guy, yeah, we're talking to the engineers. And I'm like, why would you do that? Why don't we just give you the specs to straighten the bar? And it's just part of life. And after so many straightens, you can just do a test on the metallic, properties. And well, that's great. So forget that, because I said you need something to give. You build a structure, something else is going to give, and it'll be more money. It's just a stupid bar. So that whole experience of solving a problem quickly, seeing that there was a dumb idea, and thinking, okay, I can do this kind of stuff. I started to go, I like this interface of customer stuff. So then I kept asking to be in sales, thinking that was a great job, and they said, no, you don't know enough. And so I went into all the classes we had, learned the craft of the equipment, and then they let me do engineering houses. And so I started working on rig packages with engineering houses, and that just got my brain going from an integration standpoint. So I started to get a vision for where we could go, and went on a rig with this guy Neil, and we were measuring for a system to go on this semi-submersible, and it was just wrong. And I sat there and went, this is the wrong machine. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, it should be this. We should have, we should bundle pipe and put it into a bucket and drive it in instead of one going up this conveyor belt that's steep. The price is too much. Then we can handle riser as well. And he goes, oh, it's a good idea. And so he kind of drew it up for me. We brought it to the crew. They said, this is great. We're totally doing the wrong thing, because the law in Norway was all single pipe, that you had to handle single pipe with pipe handlers. So anyway, I worked on this. We costed it out in Norway, and then I called my boss and said, hey, we kind of designed a new machine. And he's like, you're not supposed to do that. I said, well, we already bid it. The margin looks good, because I've been in the shop, I understood the margins and costs, and I was like, I think this is okay. And so he goes, you're not meant to do that, but our management team is meeting in town tomorrow. Why don't you go see this guy at his hotel? So I went over to see this stranger, and I said, here's the drawing, is what I'm thinking. And he listened, and he goes, who are you? What are you doing? And I'm like, well, we want the market here, and if we don't build in Norway and the costs work, and we should do this. And he goes, come tomorrow. It was a management team meeting, so all way above my station in life. And they had me present all the people, my direct report bosses were like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, they asked me to come, I don't know. Anyway, within a week, they moved me to California. I was working on pipe handling systems. And so that was under the marketing group because it was new. And so we had designers. And so we started building product, which really was product line. If you described it in today's language, that would be product line management, but there wasn't such a thing in industry at the time. And so we started working with all the pipe handling, and I became that rig floor designer. Every time a new rig was coming, I had to fly to wherever it was and brainstorm. And I had a team who would design rigs, and we'd do that all day long.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
So because it was under marketing, I always had this kind of pseudo marketing thing. So when I came to, we bought Schaefer, and Schaefer was in transition. It had been stripped of assets. It was, we used to call it the fourth brand of three, so they were so bad, they weren't even worthy of third. They didn't have a lot of business, and they didn't have a lot of machines. And so we started investing and inventing. And so I went there because we had a new design, and BOPs hadn't changed for 20 years. So there was a new design. I was excited. I moved to Houston, and they gave me a marketing job again. But I was running engineers at the same time, working with the engineers to get the result. Then they gave me sales, which was interesting, and then we ran sales for a bit, but we managed to keep the plant alive on these new products. And so it was all working with operators. And all along I've been working with operators, so I developed this operator relationship. And so when we merged, I moved out of that into packages, product line, merged with National Oil and Barco. I took on all the product line, and so my obsession with all the machines as well as business really got scratched. Probably my favorite job was running product line. And I loved every machine, got into all of that. They always said it's too much for you to do. And I proved it wasn't. So after 3 months, they're like, okay, that's your job. That's fine. You can work with all the product lines. So I was doing strategy, really. I mean, I was looking at packaging, and then I was interested in the software and controls. And so as I did more of that, we moved product line kind of ended when my son was 15, and he was really troubled. So I went to my boss and said, I need any job, but I need to not travel. I don't care what you pay me. My son needs me. Just give me a workshop job, I'll be fine. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And they kept giving me these turnaround jobs. Run this plant, and you can fix it. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd talk to my friends, and they go, you're still not coming home. If you're fixing a business, you're not coming home. You need to come home. I'm like, yeah, okay. I went back and said, okay, I don't want that job. Finally, they said, there's this job in corporate. And my boss hated corporate so much that he said, I've been trying not to offer you this, but there's this work with oil company jobs in sales. And it's with those guys in corporate, so you don't want that.
Those corporate guys.
Yeah, and I was like, but
those guys that don't do
let me
anything.
at least go interview. So I interviewed, and the guy said, okay, if you'll do this, you can do what you want. I'm like, really? Like, can I work from home? Yeah. Go see customers, no employees, just do it in Houston, don't have to travel. All right, cool. So I went back to my boss and I said, this is what they said. And he goes, no, don't do it. And I'm like, listen to the terms. It's like, I have to do it. And so I didn't like those jobs either. I looked at them and went, what do those guys do? Wine and dine people? It's like corporate sales. I didn't like it. It wasn't doing work, it's just eating food with people. So, and I got into it and I was not happy. And the guy said, well, why aren't you just doing whatever you want? We haven't said you have to just do this wine and dining stuff. So I started working on machine designs and integrated packages for new ideas with other people. And that kept me engaged. I'm like, all right, good. I'm enjoying this. I'm working with all companies, solving their problems. I can pull anybody from within the company. Then our boss got very sick and was off. And we all worked for the CEO all of a sudden. So I'm talking to the CEO regularly. And everyone would say, here's my numbers. This is what I've done. I'm like, those aren't your numbers. Someone else did that, So I would never report my numbers. And I'd just say,
those aren't yours.
Pete, this is kind of what I think. This is what I think we should do. And he never got angry that I didn't tell him the numbers. I just thought, this has to change in the company. And then eventually our boss never came back, and Pete said, I'm going to hire you for that job. And that job included marketing. It was, I think I was chief sales officer, which is ludicrous. All my oil company friends, they go, this is David Reid. I'm like, I'm the chief sales officer. And they go, he's not. He's not. He's a great technical business mind that is global and connected, and we need his help. And so, I mean, early on, I was saving them a lot of money, so the relationship got really good because I was solving problems that oil companies were having with NOV. And so then we broke into segments. We took the sales roles and pushed them into the segments, and then we just sat there. My boss was like, what do we call you now? I'm like, I don't know. You called me sales officer. That was ridiculous. And he goes, all right, chief marketing officer. I went, sure, call me that. Because I had a marketing department and we still did the work with the oil companies. And so,
Call me Sally if it makes you happy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone in the industry knew what I did. Anybody who mattered, you didn't take long to work out. I'm not giving you hats and keychains,
Disappointed.
No, I'll give you hats and keychains.
You get the cup.
I usually, when I first get introduced to an operator group, I'll be like, if you need t-shirts, polo shirts, I got a lot of designs. And I'm just kidding, that's not what I do. But we do it. I mean, I do all that stuff, but and I enjoy that, but that's not why they have me in the job. So I do a lot of other stuff, but yeah. So you wanted to talk social media.
But obviously you are in that marketing role. Yep. So how do with social media and stuff, how do you, I guess, manage that area, or have you delegated that down to?
Sure, none of those posts are mine. They're mine because the spelling's bad. They're all my posts. People go, often I get notes, by the way, you said that wrong word. Your autocorrect kind of embarrassed you there. And I'd be like, cool, I have no stress about it. Go back and fix it. So yeah, it's just worth watching my post to find out how bad I am at writing. But yeah, it's been natural. My kids are both social media people, so as they were growing, we kind of said, as they were growing up, okay, you can have a MySpace, just for fun, I'll throw that in. But
I had one at one
that was
point.
the first one.
Yeah.
And I said, but we have to have access, which, maybe I'm sorry now. Because my kids today are like, you know what I did today? I'm like, yeah, sure, on 3 channels. I know what you did. Because my son makes his money off social media. My daughter, you saw with the music, because she's on it all the time. So it made me and my wife agile on social all the time. And so when LinkedIn turned up, I was like, oh my goodness, I can write, go type in any company name that's gone, and I find the person. I was like, what? I just look up old names. Oh, there they are. They're in Singapore. Who knew? Just connect. All these people started connecting. It was early days, and early on, I made the mistake of posting where I was going, which I've kind of backed into now. But I would like, hey, I'm in Singapore, And so what would happen was everyone who mattered, all the senior leaders I knew, I'd go to see them. They go, wait a minute, aren't you in South America? And I went, oh, that was 2 days ago. I just came from there. And I started to go, they're reading it. The people that matter are seeing my stuff. And so I started to go, this is a big deal. So we really moved into a number of years ago going, I just need someone. Everyone has content, but I need to make great content. So we started working on how we get great images, how we get great videos, how we get animations, and then just pulling them into the environment. And so we got to play around a lot. Let's try saying this, and then let's try saying the same image. Let's try changing the image. Let's try a video. Let's try time-lapse. Ooh, time-lapse. Everyone likes a time-lapse. So, you just kept doing it. And then one day LinkedIn called me. And it was like, not like that's a human person. It's like people from LinkedIn called me. Hello, LinkedIn. So they called and they're like, I thought they were trying to sell me something. So I'm Scottish. So immediately I'm like, I have a repellent against anybody trying to sell me something. So I kept going, look, I don't want what you're selling. I'm not interested. I don't spend money. I'm Scottish. Wrong person. Go find someone else. And they kept going, no, but how are you getting your numbers? And I said, I'm getting my numbers. We've got a big company. People follow me. And no, your numbers are too good. No, it's just normal. But like, we look at everyone's numbers. Your numbers are too good. Who do you know at LinkedIn? Was where they were going. Because they're thinking
they thought you were greasing the wheel or something?
They thought that I had information.
Oh.
Because I'm so OCD for someone my level to be, I'm looking at things all the time and trying things, and I think about it. I mean, we have this great underwater cleaning system that cleans water using the energy of the water, right, called Seabox. Microsoft goes to offshore Orkney, I think it is, and puts some servers under the water to make it cool. I'm like, Microsoft, us, great story. Isn't this a cool Microsoft story? By the way, Seabox, numbers go up, Maersk Drilling, they're good. Well, they have Maersk Oil and Gas, so their numbers will boost your numbers. So everyone posts using Maersk Drilling. But when you connect with them, it just had this, so you start to realize when you bring in others to the story. So I'm constantly thinking about those things. And I'm obsessive. I get bored in meetings easily. So some people see my posts when I just like had a meeting with you. Because I'll be like, interesting, boring.
Corporate talk.
Yeah, and I take notes on my phone, which makes it free. Everyone's like, just so you know, everyone. I was once at a meeting, at the end of the meeting, someone said, did anyone take minutes? I said, yeah, I just emailed them to you. What? I was writing them under the table. I just, or I'll say I'm not texting, which I'm not. But I do take notes and then switch back and forth because ADHD.
You gotta just keep it going.
Yeah, so I'm reading other people. I'm looking for cool things I like. I did this piece for Engineers Now, which who'd ever heard of them, Middle East company. And they just post good content. They like have cool engineering, geeky stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. I'll repost that. And so we have someone constantly, one person always building material from all of our different areas. And so every day there's at least one. And I just hitchhike on that, just jump in and go repost, make a comment about what I know about it. Didn't take me much to go, what's cool about this? That's about it.
If y'all just sent out a company-wide email, you said, everybody in the company now
Please
has
post
to,
this.
You have to share it or you have to like the post, and then NOV could just dominate so LinkedIn.
But it's funny because people pay a lot of money. I mean, we get people ask us, how do you get to your numbers? Because our employee numbers are incredible on social. They say good things even when they get let go. They're like, so I want to come back, love the company. And people are like, what are you doing? And that's a freedom thing. So at the management level, legal and HR was like, can we just be careful you don't do something wrong out there? And I'm like, how about I just do it and you trust me? How about we do that? And it said, as soon as there's a problem, we can talk about it, but I want to have open. And so first time we had an employee, when we buy companies, we don't write something about it. So that's why people are like, you buy a company a month, why don't I know? Well, it's just how we do it. So an employee was excited about a new company and they did this post and legal came and said, all right, we're gonna have to fire him. It's against his contract with the company. And I was like, yeah, no, we're not gonna fire him. So do you know what it would cost for us to repair that damage? Our employees would be scared to post. We want them to post. So we'll talk to him and say, don't do that again, and we'll live with the pain. You can't retract it. So move on. And we've done that all along. So that freedom of employees, that they know it's okay to do stupid, and they do it. They do things that are good and things that are not. And you're like, oh, bummer, oh well. But what does it hurt? Especially if it's in character with the person.
Yeah.
You know, keep doing it. You know,
The freedom to fail is, I think, one of the most empowering things that you can give somebody. It's like you have enough slack to either tie a knot and climb the mountain, or to be able to hang yourself. Essentially, it's not what we want. But
you hear people say you've got your more positive thinkers, more negative thinkers. The negative thinkers are always like, why does no one get fired around here? Look at them, they failed. You're like, yeah, I know. It's not a human trait, failure. I mean, when babies fall over, we don't go, this one's broken, give me another one. They're gonna walk,
Yeah.
It's okay, they were made to walk. And if they keep falling over, maybe there's something we need to do, but getting people into their lane and knowing whether they're really gonna do great work is what I care about the most. I'm like, how do I get people to find their superpower? Because once they're in that place where, oh, nobody can do what you're doing, everyone has that. Everyone can do a basic job, but getting them to be great, that's good work, is finding people. And sometimes they leave. Sometimes it means they shouldn't be with us, and that's cool too. Have a great career doing the thing you're meant to do.
Create a company and then we'll buy you later.
Maybe. Some do. We have some YouTubers who have makers who just do that for a living and who were great at their job. I have a guy he's actually got me on the board of his organization called Every Village, and they work with South Sudan. And he was really great advertising guy when we had no advertising. And he worked for me, brilliant mind, and I kept trying to make it work. And finally I moved on, and he was really upset. He's like, I'm suddenly unhappy at work. And I went, well, you're great at what you do, but what do you love? What is the thing you love? And he goes, well, that's not about this. And I said, well, what is it? I care for the people in South Sudan. And you're like, really? Well, where did that happen? Well, I went on this trip with a mission organization, and I just love it. I'll do that. And he did. He left the company, and now 10 years later, he's got we've got kids. He lived in Uganda for a while, got multiple kids that are adopted, and runs this organization, does great work. But that's about, I could have taken advantage of, here's the best advertising mind I ever saw, or I could find out what does the guy love and make sure he goes that way, because he'd be miserable if he stayed and did what he's good at, but not what he loves.
Yeah.
So getting people to do great work is the game.
Well, hey guys, if you guys are still watching, you having a good time?
Good questions. I
haven't seen any questions come up.
No one has
There was
any.
one.
I need to close this back out because I'm not seeing
You're not
this
seeing
stuff on mine. So we've got a question here from Blair Lonely. Miss some information, re-leak detection. Is there any spill protection integrated into your system?
Oh, I know what he's saying. Spill, basically what it is a sensor that can measure the contents on the other side of any non-metallic. And so when it comes, for example, our first one is going to be on gas station tanks because they have this interstitial space that they use to protect against leaks, but they don't know when that has been breached. And so that's going to be a really dumb and simple way to use the technology. But if you look at what we're doing on pipelines, it's really being able to tell in fiberglass pipe whether you have a 2 O-ring system around the connection. And if that gets violated on either side, we'll be able to read before it fails that there's been one of the barriers has been breached. So that's the technology. It's not really reading beyond that, it's just saying in this space, do we have integrity or not?
Okay. Hey guys, if you are still watching, it says there's 113 people watching.
That's all.
So, of all the people, just click or say a comment so we know that some of you guys are actually out there still watching. It's not people just walked away from their computer.
They all have.
Or people are just letting it like scroll on while they're in corporate meetings.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Guys, we want to be able to see some questions from you guys. We still haven't gotten any. Like I said, we're giving away a top drive. So if you ask questions, we're going to give away a top drive. It's a big one. You know, if you look at it up close.
Yeah. It's a little USB top drive.
signed
by George Boyjeff.
Signed by the inventor of the top drive. So guys, click the buttons.
I might even frame it. We're going further. I'll frame your USB top drive. Just give us a question. And we're begging now.
Yes,
we're giving away free stuff and begging.
We're begging for questions.
I don't care what the question is. Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? You know.
Why is it always hot at OTC?
Why is it always hot?
Why do people still wear business suits at OTC?
I like that. Why do they? All my life.
And dress shoes.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable dress shoes.
Yeah. That'd be nice. It's changed sometimes and then it goes back.
From my very first time to the last, it's tennis shoes all
and
day.
Really, ties kind of died in the industry. Like you don't see much. I wear them sometimes, but that's because I don't do middle ground well.
Yeah.
If it's not t-shirt jeans, then it's, the polo world's not me. So I often suit up. That British background.
Yeah, ties are against my company policy.
It should be.
Yeah, so we're not allowed to wear them. They're actually a safety hazard.
They are, yeah.
It's funny enough, I worked at UPS.
Yeah.
Once you got into management, you had to wear a tie every day. That was part of it, but it had to be a clip-on tie because of the conveyor belts.
Safety, smart.
Yeah.
ExxonMobil, they were in ties, and finally they got over it. When they built a fancy campus and had enough younger people around, they're like, why? So it's a good thing.
All right, talk about SPE Innovation Project you are a part of. I'm still working on getting some test time for them as a sponsorship.
SPE Innovation, so I'm assuming there's one of two things that could be, but it's probably Startup Village. So about 3 years ago, I convinced the president of SPE at the time to do a Startup Village based on actually South by Southwest. So a friend of mine, Shell had invited me out because they Shell Tech Works, and so they had a stand with Google, I think. But we were in around that environment, and I saw how they develop new technology and make space for it, and I was like, this is cool. This is what we need. So I went to SPE, and we found inside of ATCE a method, and so I said, let's call it Startup Village. We'll start small. And I managed to get enough companies who are in venture capital kind of world ourselves, some oil companies and some venture capitalists, and said, can you all throw in money to just give as a prize? And then we'll run a competition. And so the competition will then go down to presentations. So at the ATCE, we get a set of presentations, have judges, they get coached. They also get to spend time around venture capitalist people to learn more. So they get extra help. So there's different sessions to help them. And then there's a competition, and the final winners get cash, so.
As well as being able to meet.
Right. So it's
do
really
the big networking portion of it.
Over time, I want to go more, because when you go to South by Southwest, inside hotels, they have these stands that have, they're maybe, 3 feet circles with different places that people can show new apps. And since we were pushing the app side, I'm like, I need that. I need people to come and say, I got this idea. And even if you didn't win the competition, you could be in the hallway. So I wanted to stage more and more places that people could show their stuff and get help. And really why I did it was, we're going down, industry's going down, people are getting let go, but they have great ideas. How do we help those great ideas to become products? And so I'm a big fan of that. And as is our company, we want it to happen. Of course, someday we want to buy it, but we're not the startup people. We'll fund and we'll play with things. And I just wanted it to happen. I know there's certain people are just genius at this. They're working in something, they know what's wrong with it, they get let go, I want them to go, all right, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to build a technology. Yeah. And I want that to happen. Yeah.
I got let go, and I just had to.
Here you are.
I had to make it happen.
Yeah.
I was actually going to apply for the one in Calgary, but I missed the. I was too busy doing interview stuff.
I was still shoving people in at the end, like, oh, I missed it, which is normal startup. It's not like you got time looking out. Let me search the web for Startup Village. You're just busy doing things.
This is the slowdown for me. Was like they were like, we need an executive summary, and I'm like. I've never written a paragraph about the company. I've just gone out and started selling stuff, and I was
maybe that's something we could do is with the Startup Villages, help people with that part. Have coaches to get you in a submission.
Yeah, I mean, because that was the thing. I was like, it was like, I need you to write up all this. Who's your competition? Who's this? Who's that? And I'm like, I've never even tried to focus on them. I've all just been like, the whole, do a SWOT analysis. I was like, no, how about I just call my customers and my potential customers and say, hey, buy this. It's like, I never did any of the paperwork
that's
stuff.
why you like my story, no business case,
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Because we've got time for that rubbish.
Every time somebody's like, well, did you, I had previously a mentor. And he's like, you need to write a business model. And I was like,
you have to ask your mentor, how many times did you do this?
I'm like, what do I need to do that for?
Because you do have to convince people, maybe that's a function we can add to Startup Village. I like that idea of how to sell yourself in the space. Because the beauty of things like this, SPE, IEDC, when we start things, this is how you get things to go. You go, I want to do this. And then, okay, are you alone? You want to join? You want to join? You build a few people. We want to do this. All right, give it a shot. And that's how DSAT started. That's how. So I really like that. It doesn't take much to make something happen. The new DOT conference they have coming up is Gulf Coast section just said, we need a TED Talk environment. That's what we want. And so they just started it. And I signed up, and then Nee was telling me about it. I'm like, oh, I already signed up. And they said, well, we know, we saw. But I'm like, it's cool. I want to go to that.
Yeah, Nee reached out to me and asked me to be able to help promote it, and so it was the interviews earlier this week with Wade and with Amit, Wade from Plug and Play and Amit from Mobilize, trying to get a couple more before the event to be able to help promote it. And I've been crossing my fingers to get John Gibson and I can't remember, Amaba, who's the chief technology officer over at IBM. Was like, I want to get them. Let's get them on the show. Let's what is their perspective on it and stuff. But I really like the startup stuff. So having talked about that, from my perspective, and I've helped out several different new technology companies, getting into an oil and gas company, whether it's an operator, a service company, or something. I run into a lot of times, engineers they're engineers. They're really good at what they're doing, but they're not good at sales, business development, marketing. And it's like, they're like, can you help me? They're like, do you know somebody? Because I've grown my platform, and so now I've got guys that are coming to me and they're like, hey, I've got this great thing. Can you help me get in? And so I've always viewed it as like, if I was in a position of leadership over a large organization, I would want to be able to facilitate or build some way that like on the landing page of the homepage of the website, it's like, if you have something new and cool to sell to us, here's your
here's what we care about.
Email it to here, and then we've got somebody who filters through it and goes, okay, this goes to this department, this goes to this department. Is that something you guys have ever thought of? Because I guarantee there's a lot of people that are like, I just want to get this in front of the right person at NOV.
And our system, unlike other corporations, I mean, it's usually 2 or 3 people been buying all these companies all the time. So we don't have a big finding system, but we do because we use our people. So culturally in our company, if you see a company and you're like, wish we had them, you pretty much write to the guys, or someone has an idea, you write to them and say, take a look at them. And they do. And so they're usually looking at 10 deals at once. And they're progressing them, but they're constantly feeding through lots of things. Usually people come to us. So if you know someone in NOV in the kind of business that you're aligned with, then just have them forward it to the department, and that's how we do it. So it does work that way, but more informal. It's not a bad idea. I like it.
I always thought it'd be a good idea for, if you're an operator, put out there like, hey, you have something to sell to the drilling department, here's the email address. You have
Right.
something to sell here? Because I know for the times when I was selling to drilling engineers, it's like, okay, I'm trying to sell them something, a bit guy's trying to sell them something,
Right.
there's a motor, there's a directional,
That's right.
there's an MWD, there's the mud, there's the drilling contractors.
And they have people designed to keep you from talking to them. So sometimes you get that person, right?
Yeah. And it's difficult to be able to sell to them because, as far as when I look at it as far as marketing, it's like, if you're an oil and gas company, you're a drilling department, right? You have no reason to go out there and market yourself.
No.
If you're Google or Apple, you have a product that you're selling to market. The operators, they really don't even have a reason. Like, there's a lot of independents that don't have websites, don't have LinkedIn, don't
Right.
have any kind of
Way to
virtual
connect.
presence,
Yeah.
but they still sell a product because they know they can just turn on a pipeline or have a truck come out. Like, they have no reason to do that. So if you look at that on a small scale and you go to the big scale and it's like, okay, why is Exxon or Chevron even doing marketing? One, it's, they're publicly traded,
Sure.
but then they're also trying to attract talent. Otherwise, they have really, their
no
gas
other
stations or something. But if you look at Pioneer, they don't have gas stations.
No.
They're just,
But they do have, so generally you're right, they have a lot of people trying to talk to them, and they spend their life, I get this all the time, because I play open on LinkedIn, many people are like, how can you do that? How can you get all these people all the time trying to interact with you? But obviously if someone's just selling something, there's a few words that I'll be like, no. Sometimes I'll feel bad and I'll write to them and go, listen, 100 of these, every few days, so I'm ignoring you.
we can help you with your sales leads. Those.
Yeah, those people. But I think that is a challenge, and how do technologies get in and how do you get noticed? And generally it has been a buying up, and hopefully our app work was to do the opposite, to create a platform where you can know, I can get on your platform, it's proven, it's tested, and so you can sell. So on the Novos platform, I already have an app for you, I can sell it to you, so at least the door opens.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult system. It's almost what we thought with Novos was it is impossible to have anything to control any of our stuff because we don't let you. And if you want to control Schlumberger or Halliburton or Baker's stuff, they're not going to let you. They're not going to let you inside the machine.
Yeah.
So we thought, how can we connect them so they can do that? Because that has to disrupt. We have to create a roadway into the system. And so that was the logic, because we think there's more need for that. I mean, we're watching the shales and how it's disrupted the directional drilling business, So many people started directional companies and it's going well. And it's disrupted it. It's in the shale only, but how do you get that around the world? I mean, that's a great disruption. How do you get people to be able to start up a business instead of only working with the big guys? So
Yeah.
we thought we'll open the door. We'll try and get people to be able to connect in, and so we think that way a lot.
So is that something you're in support of? So like in Nigeria, they have what they call local content,
Yeah.
right? Saudi had,
Yeah.
I can't remember it was like this really long acronym.
Activa.
Yeah.
In country value, yeah.
In-country add value. It's like, it was supposed to be like in 4 years that 75% or 50%
Yep.
was supposed to come from countries within.
Yeah.
So are those things that NOV is highly in support of, is being able to create more local companies
Yeah.
and be able to...
More now, because we've created a model, because we saw what was happening in the shale, to take that globally. So we bought a lot of these companies that were in the shale, and we take them international, and they're just going crazy. I mean, they're growing. Our completions business has been a fantastic growth story, because there was, outside of the US, you could only buy from 3 or 4 people. Nobody was really disrupting it, so it was pretty stable. So when we bought some of the smaller players with great ideas, their business grows fast because there's not a lot of options out there, and they've built this ecosystem you can't enter. And so same with downhole tools, LWD, MWD, so we've moved into all of these. Having our own full test rig has helped for app development, for tool development, so that was always your barrier. How do you get on a rig to test your thing?
Yeah.
And it's so much risk.
That's one of the biggest
and
challenges.
Once you fail,
Yeah.
don't come back,
Or go spend an obscene amount of money in Oklahoma.
Right. So we've been able to facilitate some of that, and particularly in buying the companies and giving them, our tool tech guys, like, they're not on the test, but they're in the test every time. You see them in there playing around with their stuff, making better product, and it's just cool. And like, is this your test? No, this is a test for something else, but we're just running our stuff while while they're doing their test, So it's been really good. So we keep building that capability in our Navasota test facility. It's pretty interesting stuff.
So have you seen a better uptake from like the national oil companies to be able to see like, okay, we're willing to, because I remember at one point in time, I was actually in Nigeria, I was working with the Toltec system, I was consulting for somebody, and I was talking to an operator and I said, hey, look, you should, this thing takes, I can rig up this whole system in an hour by myself. And they were like, that's impossible. And I was like, okay, I know what you're used to is guys with blue coveralls taking 2 days.
Right.
But I can do this in an hour by myself.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And I was like, yeah.
It's a shocker.
And then the guy's like, but it won't work down hole. And I was like, why? And he's like, that won't work in Nigeria. That won't work in the Niger Delta. I was like, what do you mean it won't? I was like,
it'll work.
I was like, it works every day in the US.
Earth's the earth.
And he's like, no, can't work. And so that's been one of my things as far as with my companies. I want to be able to show that like, maybe my market share analysis is just for Texas. It's a small subset of everything. But if I can show that, the market is dominated by the independents, then I hope that, even if there's no monetary gain, that for all of the local content guys around the world to be able to show, you can go to your national oil company and say, hey, look, I've been in this industry long enough. I know how to deal with the motor. I know I've got, the supply chains here. Let us go out and do the work and be able to compete and be able to grow those economies there, as opposed to you always have to use rotary steerable, you always have to have quad combo, you always have to have this.
Isn't that funny? We do a global analysis for operators, and so we'll go in. We do it for ourselves originally when we're buying companies, but we go look at how much cost is in a barrel of oil and what is it. So we break down everything that's being spent into small pieces and say, what is that? And so in different countries, different things change, and you learn that the services cost in the Middle East is like out of control, and just turns up in the numbers. You start looking at what costs are in there, and you compare them, and you go, huh. So it tells you what you should be buying, what technology you need to go after that cost. And so particularly because it's hard to be in those countries, and they're doing all sorts of support and other things that they're paying for. You make that local, it gets really interesting from what you can do. And so automation becomes all about that subject. How can I get my people to do the same work with what Novus does is almost cut and paste on performance. So if I'm getting my, fast connections here versus, minutes over here, okay, good. I can take that, cut and paste it and make the same thing happen on this rig. Well, so then can you do it in another country? Sure you can.
Yeah.
So you can repeat it. So suddenly the best performance, and maybe not the super best. So the truth is there's always a crew who can beat you, but that crew can't be everywhere. But you can make the next best guy, the number 2 guy, your norm across everywhere.
Yeah.
Globally, that has huge impact. And same with...
And then if you pair that crew with the machine, and then the two start learning off of each other and playing together.
Well, and you're recording what's happening. So if a rig does something well, you can just cut and paste it. I want to do that same practice. And so ultimately, when you have a lot of machines working in the offshore world, they can be telling each other, I just did this, it works better than that. And suddenly you've got a network of rigs teaching rigs what to do, and so now you have a real process control manager instead of a driller who should be an octopus, because he's got so much going on that it becomes this art of, drilling as opposed to a process-based oversight where he can be looking for big problems and things going wrong and watching the safety of his crew.
Yeah. You take a picture of any rig cabin and there's like...
Right.
There's more screens than a newsroom.
And that's how we show it. We actually go through, here's what the guy has to do just to make a connection. Ding, 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 ding. People forget. It's all those things.
And there's always something else beeping.
Right.
There's always something beeping.
So we do. We have a game that we have inside of in our building where we set up, you drill the well, here's what you do. And it tells you what to do. And you press all the buttons. Okay, now turn on Novus. And of course, you immediately tactile understand, oh my goodness, much is the same as this MPD thing. We had a Middle East driller, excuse me, come in this week actually. We just seen them, their eyes were wide open and they just went, MPD, I did it. I pressed the button and it all did all the right things. He was just like, I couldn't believe it. it's such a wake up for the ability to what else, And remote. I mean, you have these systems, you can have remote experts now. And there's more and more people talking about that. Years back, we worked with Schlumberger on remote DDEs and downlinking, basically. And we automated so it could work on any rig, doesn't matter. You don't need a high-tech rig, but we jump the signal to the pumps. And instead of, deciding you're going to pulse all these messages down to tell a tool to do something, it just goes, it just runs through it really quick. No person in timing, it just times it, works automatically. Suddenly, you didn't need to be there. And so it can be remote, and you can watch it, and you can tell a tool to do something. And so that's 15-year-old technology just picking up, really strong in the Middle East. And for the service companies, because they're doing the same. I was with Chevron yesterday, they're centrally doing directional drilling. They're all going there. They're all going down that road because it makes
sense. Kelsey Prestridge heading up that group, and phenomenal engineer. Very cool. Looking over that
We were having an automation talk, and they're like, we don't know that we're that good. And we're like, hold on, this stuff you're doing, don't forget, that's really cool.
It was funny because we had, with the International Association of Directional Drilling, back on, I think it was like April 4th, we were having a meeting, we were talking about steering towards automation. And so we had Hess and ConocoPhillips and Southwestern up there talking about, things that they're doing and what they're talking about. And then Kelsey's sitting in the back of the room kind of being quiet and having all these kind of open discussions. And she's like, we're completely manless on 75% of our rigs, and we have been for, the last 6 months. And everybody's like, what?
I know, it's so funny. It's the same. Everyone's doing something that's cool, and they don't really understand it, but that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So it's a good foundation for them. We're like, we can do a lot off of that foundation, because culturally, making that happen is really hard. So you actually broke down a cultural wall. So let's keep pushing on that wall instead of saying, let's try this up here and this here and that there. Let's keep going down that road, because you've broken through a really tough barrier right there.
What was really interesting is one of my first office jobs, one of the guys I was working for, he was like, let's set up this remote center in here. It was for Children's Directional Drilling. I don't remember them, but it was used car dealership directional drilling is what I like to call it. And the guy that I was working for, he came in and he said, look, he's like, the most valuable thing in our industry right now is experience, and it's depleting every day.
Yeah.
He's like, so let's bring that experience in here and spread it out over more rigs. And I was like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I was like, we never did it, but I was like, that makes perfect sense. It was like, and so going forward, I was like, that we were a small independent directional drilling company, but I was like, everybody else is going to have to start doing this as well if they want to be able to compete.
And where you go is there's someone there as a resource in the back, but you can turn to drillers doing directional work, running their own tools. And that's going on a lot. Drilling contractors going, okay, I'm going to run my own tools. They still don't quite understand how to work the business model, because there's a lot of money in it. They just don't know how to retrieve that money because they're used to renting a rig, and so there's some business challenges. And but I think that'll pass. I think some integration of services is going to be normal. So it's a pretty exciting change.
I just look forward to like the Middle East not having to run quad combos on every well.
Isn't that funny?
I'm like, just go with Gamma. I was like, you guys have drilled enough wells out here. You don't need all this stuff. Oh no, we got to know. It's conventional.
I know.
It's in the same spot the other well was 10 feet over.
I know.
You don't need to spend that much money.
It's a hard conversation, because what happens is they build it in as this is how we do it, and once it's how we do it, that doesn't change easily.
You can't drill a well without it. No. Good job on those sales guys. Good job on that marketing
great
team.
Money, but it shows up when you do the cost per barrel. You see these dollars. It's like, wow, there's some savings here, and it's like, no, you can't touch our practices. There's no savings here. Carry doing what you're doing.
Then sorry.
But they're interested, and we are talking with a lot of them, and there's some different thinking. I think they're in a really good transition in the Middle East. They've been, this last downturn put them under pressure to go, we're going to have to use some of our own people, so we have to get this capability in-house. And so a lot of good things have happened. So, I mean, you see a lot more women in the workplace and doing more because they're like begging to let me do this. And so you see that more, which just wasn't there.
This is great.
Yeah, so it's and they're welcoming it, which is just great. It's a great transition that they're going through. So I think they might move a lot faster than everyone thinks.
So do you see that international market being the place that's growing right now?
Middle East is healthy. International, I mean, Argentina's doing okay. Mexico's good. And generally things are going okay in different places, but really Middle East under growth. And then US, even though it's retracting, I think will continue to be healthy. So those are the hot spots.
You guys are over 2 hours, by the way.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the wife is giving me the evil eye to your wife, not mine.
Yeah,
your
yeah.
wife.
We have to bring home.
Okay.
Your mom is also doing that. Just
All right.
Oh.
We can wrap it up. You don't
Nobody
want
asked
to?
any questions. We got like 1 or 2 questions in
Yeah.
there the whole time. That's
they're all listening.
I don't care,
though. They are
because
all
I wanted to ask my
Do
question.
you have to be home by 2, or did you change that
It's okay.
appointment?
It's okay. It's 3.
Well, you drove all the way out here just to meet with me.
That's right. Well, I was in San Antonio, but just like you're coming to the zoo, I came here just for you.
I'll let you be in the background of one of my photos.
Okay, I'm gonna step out then.
All right.
All right, we're
I
finishing up.
just wanted to check in.
All right.
This has been an amazing episode. Thank you guys, David. Thank you so much for being here. I really do
Enjoyed it.
appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
Thank everybody for watching. Maybe on the next episode, you guys will ask some questions, and then you could win a top drive.
I'm going to sit there asking questions, looking for that top drive. Oh, wait, I'm giving it. It's all right.
Well, if you want to know any more, if you want to, be sure to follow David on LinkedIn, get connected with him there, as well as look at Redeem Ministries or RedM if you want to be able to get involved with some of the human trafficking stuff and that wonderful movement that there is there. Any last words for everybody that's watching? Get back to work.
Get back to work. What are you all doing?
The NOV
Times are
employees.
tough. What am I doing? I need to get back to work. No, that's good. It's been enjoyable. Keep listening. This is a good show. I like what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. All right, guys. As always, know your industry. I didn't point.